Fears and Dreams, Book 2 of the Unseen Scar series, written and narrated by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 24. Healing his wound was simple. It was a clean cut. Too bad Master Lucet's assessment wasn't. Giving the right answers was easy enough, but the 3-day observation. At least Zephyr was let out of the room, was allowed to run and to interact. But a sigh left the prince as he looked up through the leaves at the clear sky. A couple more hours, that's all. It's almost over. Last night's memories played in his head. There were increasingly larger gaps in time between them, and now he had to watch to the bitter end. Knowing the truth about himself, this gave him more to think about than he wanted. But he still didn't know why he hated his cousin. He was the monster, not Ferdinan. That anger, why can't I control it? Before he realized, it already consumed him. Each time. For years. No matter how hard I try, it always ends up with me beating him. But last night, he realized something sickening, twisted. Ferdinan always looks relieved after. The more savage the beating. An ahem interrupted his thoughts. Onyx's eyes shifted from the sky to his lifelong friend. The smile forming on his lips vanished when he noticed her expression. Terrified, furious, scared. Zephyr swallowed, but guilt stuck in his throat. What were you doing? His hand flip-flopped from palm up to palm down. What do you mean? Kneeling beside him, Denalia slugged his shoulder. What were you thinking? What were you doing? What are you talking about? Zephyr blinked away tears. That wasn't a playful punch. What do you mean, what am I talking about? You turned into my blade. It was a feint. It never should have made contact. I know you saw it. We've been sparring how many years? How did this even happen? I scared her. I don't know. I didn't see it. You were fast. She unleashed a barrage of strikes to his arm, numbing it. Don't lie. They wouldn't have let you back here if you were unable. Something so simple. I made her cry. That tightness constricted his lungs. Injuring each other in sparring was normal, but she never reacted like this. I turned into her blade? I'd never do that. I'm sorry. All I remember is enjoying our fight, and then that weird music changed. Music? You made me stab you because of some music playing on the other side of the island? Her lecture continued, but he didn't stop it. He just let her run her course. Maniacal laughter filled the air, as did cries for help. Dwell didn't have to look to know what was going on. Oya developed a habit of randomly tormenting his sweetmate. Turning, he saw blood-red hair chasing after Ilu's shiny black. Shaking his head, the tiny boy flew toward them. The closer he got, the redder Ilu's face appeared. Stop running. Don't play her game. That was easy to think. In private, his island brother agreed, but he never could. When she was there, he couldn't help the chaos that ensued. Eager bare feet skidded to a stop, and those eerie green eyes turned on him. A wink, and the crazed girl flicked her wrist. It wasn't until she was soaring straight for him that Tuel remembered the cuffs used at the Family Week show. Ha ha! The flying shadow dodged out of the way, but that didn't discourage her. Oya came around for another pass, and she was fast. Golden brown fingers grazed his snow-white hair. Then he was standing on one of the outer islands. What just happened? A mischievous grin filled his view right before plopping onto the ground and leaning back. You're not the only one who has no one. What? Oya turned and looked at the water before circling back to him. Marcus isn't the only one suffering. You have every right to the same support. What are you talking about? Your island family. Why is she talking about them? She doesn't know us. I didn't lose anyone. Marcus lost everyone. But there's enough stress in our suite without you torturing Ilu too. Please stop stealing what energy we have. Something he couldn't describe flashed across her alien green eyes. You can't lose what you never had. Fire coursed through his veins. Clenching his jaw tight kept him from saying something he'd regret. There once was a man who flew too close to the sun. Squatting down, Oya looked up at him. What is she doing? Her gaze, it felt like she was looking right through him. She stayed like that for a long time. Should he move? Or what was going on? He blinked and she was standing again, her hand just shy of touching his chest. You have a good heart. Keep building the life you want. Just as John complained about, she vanished. No running or flying away. She just stopped being there. Is this a dream? It felt too real. But how did he get here? And what did she mean? Ferdinan grinned, feeding off his pupil's excited energy, as Elby placed the screen between them. This is your project? Yes! Wonderful. Please tell me about it. Elby paused. Is your stomach hurting? No. It took a moment to realize he was punching his belly. What am I doing? Blushing, Ferdinan grabbed his knees. I apologize. Tell me about your project. The young tinkerer studied the skeleton for a minute. Apparently satisfied, he pulled up blueprints he was exceedingly proud of. I'm still working on it, but it'll be a 3D printer. Ferdinan smiled brightly. What makes it different from the ones we already use? It'll print at an atomic level using carbon. One gray and one green eye twinkled against Elby's dark skin. A strained smile stretched Ferdinand's thin lips. As fun as this idea was, that level of atom manipulation was beyond human ability. Looking over the schematics, the skeleton wondered how to... Every word left Ferdinand's mind. I always knew he was more intelligent than me, but this? It was beyond even a tinkerer's imagination. How much have I underestimated him? How much have I failed him by not realizing? The weight of responsibility tripled. Was it possible for him to be the mentor Elby needed? Mouth dry, Ferdinand looked at those mismatched eyes. He doesn't understand. Of course the young boy wouldn't. Elby hadn't yet learned this was impossible. Awe blanketed the older tinkerer. All the uses. This is an entirely new field of study. But it's better he doesn't know. I want to see how far he can take this. Interesting. What do you plan on doing with it? Carbon's the base of most things. It's inexpensive and yet valuable in more complex forms. So I thought it'd be fun and useful to print gems. That was among the ideas Ferdinand had as well. It'd be amazing. And horrible. Why print gems? So many bad things have happened recently, Elby started. So much was lost and destroyed. Gems could rebuild those broken places. All the hungry people could be fed. His heart's in the right place. Good. Those are wonderful things. Now to crush him. Elby nodded. As long as they stay on the islands, there wouldn't be any problem. This statement caught his apprentice's attention, distracting mismatched eyes from the bony fist pounding Ferdinand's stomach again. But what will happen when people realize gems could be printed? They wouldn't have to mine them, or scout old ruins? Elby thought, then smiled brighter. That'd get rid of dangerous jobs. That's true, jobs will be lost. Huh? Burdening a child. Printing gems, flooding economies with enough to rebuild broken areas, and feed all the hungry would make money worthless. Mismatched eyes looked up and thought, but the gems could replace money. True, but the countries already focused on gem collecting would fall. Without a way to control mass-produced gems, those governments would collapse. It's the rarity which allows these places to supplement the needs of their people. More than just jobs would be lost. Ferdinan paused while his pupil stood speechless. Let's put aside societal problems. What would easily created gems do to people individually? Everyone could do what they wanted. Just print a gem, and they could use that to buy what they needed. Then they could focus on doing what they want. A soft sigh left Ferdinan. I hate this. Jobs will be lost. Highly prized work will become useless. What people need to survive is guaranteed by government, but that doesn't change people's psychological need to work. We learned this millennia ago. Even after ensuring basic physical needs was accepted as a human right, the internal need to work remained. Grow and improve, to dream and to make those dreams reality. When a person is no longer able to put forth effort to gain or obtain a goal or means to a goal, work, it takes away their humanity. I don't understand. Your work tormenting innocence is unparalleled. When people no longer work, when they no longer can work, because there's no work for them, things... Tired of being ignored, his stomach started gnawing on his organs, but he just had to make it to the end of the session. It leaves people feeling worthless, because they're unable to earn, unable to achieve. It stills their hope and drive. It takes away what makes us human. Progress slows or stops altogether. Bitterness and resentment grow, and conflict intensifies. Those unable to find or create work will fall into despair, because there won't be a need for them. Even those who choose not to work will eventually succumb to that same depression, having lost the feeling of being needed, the joy of succeeding, of working for a purpose. The few people who can find work will face vicious jealousy. I still don't understand. Why would that happen? The voice laughed, but it was much quieter, easier to ignore. Smiling, Ferdinan offered the best example one could give a child. While you're here, how much you learn, what you accomplish, is up to you. If that's taken away, if you've worked hard to learn, and do as much or more than your peers, but every opportunity you were looking forward to disappeared, how would you feel? Angry. Likewise, if you knew it didn't matter how much or how little you did, nothing would change your opportunities to progress. How hard would you try? I don't know. Probably not very hard. On a similar note, if a class you needed was severely limited, but you worked hard, you did everything you could to earn a spot, but was never able to take it, leaving your studies to suffer, to stay incomplete, how would you feel? Mismatched eyes looked around the room as a dozen expressions crossed Elby's face. That'd be so frustrating. And how would you feel toward the lucky few who got to complete their studies? His apprentice stood, jaw working but no words coming. You'll not lose the food and shelter you have, the safety and care you enjoy, but no matter how much you try, how much you want to achieve the goals you have. It'll be out of your reach. You can live a long life like that. But will you feel alive? Will you be happy? Looking down, Elby pinched his lips together and nodded. I understand. With that admission, Ferdinand continued his lecture. Even the luckiest, hardest-working, and most generous of people will be adversely affected. With governments collapsed and money worth nothing, food would become the only thing of real value. The areas supplementing with gems and other natural resources tend to have less fertile lands. And it's a lot harder to give food, which is limited and highly seasonal, when your family's faced with hunger, than it is to give money that can be budgeted around. Elby's mismatched eyes widened in horror. Haha, only you can make a child look like that. There's another problem to consider as well. I'm sorry I'm scaring you. Why am I so incompetent? How many cultures place meanings on various gems? Being so easily produced can cause those symbols to lose their importance. There's no opportunities for them to achieve their goals. Access to food is questionable, and those symbols for strength and hope have lost their meaning. I didn't think it could be so horrible. I'm sorry. No, I'm terrible. Covering his eyes, Ferdinand took a deep breath. It's not horrible. Your idea's fun and could be wonderfully beneficial. But as a scientist, as a tinkerer especially, we need to stop and think of the worst possible thing our inventions could cause. Even after 15 millennia of recorded history, humans are amazing at twisting good things into horrible ones. Why can't we learn? So, I need to think of something else? A pale Elby turned to his mentor for guidance. No. Ferdinand smiled and patted the young boy's head. I approve your idea. But why? I'll collapse governments and cause widespread depression and starvation. You could, if it left the islands before society was ready for it. Ferdinand knelt to eye level. I already said it's a fun and wonderful idea. It's never been done before. Scientific curiosity alone. I want you to bring this to life. Build a machine that can print real gems. But then what? This isn't something I can promote to the world. But here, safe on these islands, I want you to have fun with it. See just how well you can make it. And later you can adjust it to do more than print gems. Really? But isn't it scary? That's why I want you to make it. It's good for us to feel fear for our creations. It means we're maintaining the proper respect for our station. It also helps keep us humble. Standing tall and smiling big, Ferdinand continued. I trust you to approach this project with the proper respect. Yes, sir. Though Elby shook, his smile was full of confidence. John turned to whoever was tapping on his open door. He expected to see Elby again, but was greeted by an unusually somber Zhao. We need to talk. What's going on? Standing, John motioned the lead in. About what? After sitting next to the young thinker, Zhao took a moment to breathe in deep before starting. There's no easy way to say this, and I mean no disrespect, but considering your family and... Acid climbed up John's throat. He's never at a loss for words. Ferdinand. Frustration forced air from his lungs. Zhao, I'm not... Please. The lead grabbed John's arm. I'm worried, and what I have to say, it's sensitive. I can't trust anyone else, but you work with him every day. You fight every day, and your family loves him. John closed his eyes. What do I do? Ferdinand's complaints about Zhao's persistence weren't unfounded. If he didn't let the gent talk, I have to make sure Ferdinand comes home with me. It was his best chance to help his ally. Breathing out, John rubbed his face. Nothing can compromise that. The growing giant stood, closed the door, and locked it. What do you want to talk about? I know he's the scientist who stopped the plague. Zhao, he was commissioned to make that second skin, not medicine. Interrupting John right there, Zhao spoke more forcefully. I know it was him. I'm not asking for confirmation. I'm simply stating the fact to set up my concern. This isn't good. For the sake of argument, then. Doing something so awe-inspiring? Zhao sighed. That's not how he'd see it, is it? Reluctantly, John gave the older boy a no. You're the only one who's spent real time with him. I'm not wrong, suspecting... Ferdinand getting sick so often could be... Taking a breath, Zhao lowered his voice and leaned in to whisper. Ferdinand's making himself sick to deal with what happened. Isn't that what you're doing? John shook his head and pushed himself to his feet. Your obsession with this, isn't that you not dealing with reality around you? I won't deny that, but switching subjects doesn't change what's going on with Ferdinan. Zhao gave John a long, hard look. Shaking his head ever so slightly, the growing giant closed his eyes again, piecing together his words. If Ferdinan thought I said anything, everything would unravel. Stop making this difficult, Zhao. Back away. You're right. That makes perfect sense. If Ferdinan heard about the plague before the cure was announced. Zhao tried arguing, but John cut him off. I was there, remember? Swallowing hard, John set his jaw. If he was the scientist, I would have been the first to know. And the first to deny it.